CNBC presents Power Lunch with Bill Griffith and Michelle Caruso-Cabrera.
Managing your taxes while you're in retirement can be one of the most difficult tasks, and if it's not done correctly, it can end up costing you a lot of your hard-earned savings. Here was some very helpful advice. Mark Brown, certified financial planner and partner at Brown and Tedstrom. Nice to have you with us, Mark.
Thank you, Sue.
This is really key, and a lot of people feel as though they've worked very hard, they're in retirement, you know, the worst is behind them, but actually some of the biggest challenges are still ahead of them.
And the good news is that in retirement, people before they retire, they often assume that their tax rate is going to be the same as when they were retired. But in fact, it's usually about 30 to 50% less. So that's actually great news.
It is good news. What are the first steps? What should you do when you look at the investments that you have and you decide you need to liquidate some? How do you make those choices?
Well, the first thing we'd say is that it's always important to put together maybe a 3-year forecast, and then show what those buckets are. You have tax sheltered accounts, you have deferred accounts, you have interest and dividends, pension, Social Security, you have basis, things you paid for, and understand what each one of those buckets are first, and then in that 3-year forecast, you can decide which one you want to turn on and off to minimize your taxes.
Let's take a look. You worked up kind of a tax filter for us, a retirement tax filter. The first thing you say is to withdraw from personal investments and savings first before you look at some of the other investments.
And that's generally the rule of thumb, is that you're always going to minimize taxes if in fact you take monies out that you've already paid taxes on. If you take it out from an IRA account, that's fully taxable. So that's the general advice, but not always the advice. Sometimes it makes sense to take tax sheltered accounts out sooner if you think your tax rates are going to be higher later.
You also want to maximize the amount of time IRAs and tax sheltered accounts, because then they can continue to grow. Okay. What if you have changes in your tax rate and maybe you have part-time income, maybe you're fully retired technically, but you have a little part-time income on the side? Well,
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because the whole face of retirement is changing. Before, people were wearing out at 65 and they didn't want to do anything more, but today people are so vibrant into their 60s and 70s that they continue to work. Many of them do. So it's important to say, if you do have monies coming in from an outside source that you're being taxed on, maybe it's not a good time to take a capital gain this year, or maybe it's not a good time to take an IRA distribution, or maybe recharacterize the way you're paid interest.
Okay, let's take some phone calls. Young from North Carolina is first on the list. Go ahead, Young.
Hello.
Hi.
I have some money invested outside of an IRA in savings bonds, treasury stuff at 5%. And of course, I don't pay taxes until I actually cash that in. And I have money in an IRA that I don't pay taxes until I take it out. And right now, we're presumably in a low tax situation. Which should I do?
It's the perfect question, really, for our topic today, in terms of having these different buckets of money that you can take from one place to the other. And what I would do is, the first thing I said is to create a forecast and look at the next 3 years. And in that forecast, play what-if scenarios and say, if you take some money out here, how is that going to change my tax bracket versus maybe pushing it off to another year? So that's the first thing I'd say, is do the forecast, play the what-if scenarios, and that'll tell you the answer.
All right, let's go to Dale quickly in Missouri. Go ahead, Dale. You with us, Dale? Nope, I think we lost Dale, unfortunately. A quick comment on when you say a forecast, 3 or 4 year forecast, what do you need to take into account in that forecast? I would assume healthcare costs, inflation, and the like.
You basically take your tax return, and then you forecast it out for 3 or 4 years, and then you say, from those different income sources, which ones are discretionary that I can decide if I want to take it or not, and which ones are fixed I have to take, like Social Security or a pension plan. And so once you have decided what your discretionary items are, you can then determine, should I take this one this year, or should I push it forward into the next year? And by doing that, you should really assume that your tax rates are probably going to be shouldn't be any higher than 5 or 15% of your total income.
Okay, Mark, thank you very much. Good to have you with us
today. Thank you,
Sue. Mark Brown has been our guest, certified financial planner and partner at Brown and Tedstrom.